Good evening.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are things in Winston?
We still piddling along. Debt is still there. Um, right now our focus is in instruction. That's the only concerning part. Um, it's all about the money and everybody just coping with where we are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I talked with one of mine today. She's in dissertation only,
Okay.
and she's in Charlotte. And as crazy as it sounds, that's all they're focused on either.
Mm.
Um,
And it's just hard because how do you help students if you're only thinking about that part? And I know that's there, but when you say, "Oh, we care about students, we didn't touch these people or that," but you sort of did because
yeah,
there
you
were so many
did.
other areas you hit schools bad. Especially the EC department is horrific right now.
Yeah. Well, what Marquise was sharing with me today is there was an incident and they just, I mean, an EC kid was involved and they don't really have anybody to advocate for the EC kid.
Mm. And it's gonna
Uh,
get worse, because right now everything's about a dollar. Everything is about not what's in the best interest of our students, and that's
yeah.
one of the things we work on at our school is they don't really have anybody outside their parents if schools don't step up for them. So
Well, I mean, that's what she's talking about is, you know, nobody's looking out for that EC kid. The district's just trying to protect itself. They don't want to do the right thing because they're trying to save money. I mean that's what everybody's doing now. Is
yeah.
it's about the dollars.
And I'm sure watching what's going on with us, it makes it makes people want to be a little bit like, hey, everybody's learning from our lesson now. It's like, wait a minute. Um, how do we
Yeah.
keep ourselves from becoming Winston-Salem?
Yeah. And um, how can we, and the districts, pulling back on anything that might be a cost to them?
Hence our dental. We now pay for our dental, and then they're gonna cut the janitor. They're looking at they doing this tonight. They're voting on cutting them to 10 months. But I said, who prepares the school to open back up if you cut them? Who's gonna do the floors? Who's gonna deep clean before the kids come back in August? But I
They
guess that
won't.
don't matter.
No, they won't. They won't. They won't bother to do any of that.
Mm.
It'll just be like you left it in the spring, and they'll expect teachers to get by.
And
Um,
that's funny because now that I'm back in the classroom, I clean my classroom in between every class change because I don't want to get sick. So I'm always wiping tables. I even give
yeah.
the students jobs. I let them wipe, and then when they leave, I clean again. And I'm real big about my floor. And the janitor, I mean, I've been in there for 3 weeks and the same stains on the floor. So I said, can I get some mop water? I'll clean it myself. I just need some mop water. He got so offended when my principal was like, that's not my teacher's job. They got enough on their plate. Are you mopping the floors? He was so angry. And I was like, I don't mind cleaning my room, but I don't feel like our children should sit in a dirty room, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've lost the thread, and but that was intentional.
Mm,
We've lost the thread in that, but that again, we're trying to make it so that folks opt out into something else. We've put our
hmm.
thumb on the scale now.
Yeah.
I mean that's what's going on. We're intentionally driving folks out. We're making it as bad as we can make it for everybody. I mean, um, and other places will reap the benefits of that, but that's kind of the whole point is we want to drive the good teachers out. We want to make sure that we leave nothing, you know, behind where folks could do. a decent job. We want to make sure that even the best ones can't. And we're going to make it hard enough on them that they'll find something else somewhere else. And so this is a concerted effort. I mean, I get it. Um, when things don't take off like you hope they will,
Hmm.
then you have to manipulate the playing field. And so when we first started moving away from public schools, folks thought it would be an avalanche going that way, and when it wasn't, now we're creating the avalanche now. Um, I mean, the idea was choice, but now because people weren't choosing at the rate that folks needed to drive the profit motive,
Hmm.
we've now shifted the playing field.
Right.
Exactly what we've done. All right. Well, I see I've got Monique, the star of the evening, with us, and she's going to present laws 13 through 15, I believe, from John Maxwell. So, John and Donovan, thank you for being with me. Shanae, as always, Victoria, I believe, is with us as well. So, Monique, I'll let you. Hey, Victoria, I'll turn off my camera so you can share your screen, and we'll get started with the evening's lesson.
All right, let me see. See if it'll let me. That one. Share. Oh, it's telling me I need to close it and open it back up to share my screen.
Okay.
So I'll be right back.
All righty.
Okay. What are they doing? All right, let's see if it works this time. There we go. All right. Can everybody see that?
We can.
Perfect. All right. So starting with so I had laws 13 through 15 in Maxwell. So starting off with 13, talking about the law of picture. So people do what people see. And so this chapter really focused on and I found a lot of value in this chapter in particular in my new role or my new school because it just basically talks about being the example in your leadership that you want to see in the people that follow you. So making sure that you don't expect to see something that you can't see within yourself, kind of like a self-reflection. So the start, uh-oh. To start, the great leaders have to be able to share the vision, starting with the vision that they have, whatever the goal is within the task that you're trying to complete. And then always making sure that not only do you have a clear understanding of what the vision is, but then also making sure that you are always showing that vision to those who are following you. Um, One piece that they talked about is the further up in the leadership ladder that you go, the more you are paid to be a dreamer. So you are more focused on the vision, the higher up your position is. And so you have to make sure that you're not just communicating what that vision is. So thinking about our superintendents and then down to the principals, making sure that we're not just sharing the vision and communicating it and putting out documents about what the vision is, but also making sure that we're able to live the vision every day when we're at work. So again, making sure that we're living the vision. It talks about in this chapter that communicating the vision is important and making sure that you are clear and precise with the way that you're communicating the vision. But it said that the tendency of leaders, again, is just to communicate that vision. So Maxwell goes into talking about how you model the vision so that the picture becomes alive. And so, in previous chapters where we talked about making sure that people want to follow you, once you have them following you, that they see the vision in your everyday movements. And I really thought about that because I'm terrible about time and being late. But we communicate to our staff the importance of being on time and making sure they're in the building for students. So again, I thought about this when it pertains to me and making sure that I display that every day with my staff. Oh, go back. Okay. And then so once you make the vision become reality, um, understanding that the followers are always going to be watching what you do and making sure that everything you say and everything that you preach is important and is a value of your business or your company, or in our case, the school, that the staff is always watching you to model that. And Maxwell talked about how it's much easier to teach what's right, and it's easy for us to understand what the right thing to do is, but it's a lot harder to do what's right every day. And so we have to work as leaders on changing ourselves before we can effectively change those who are following us. And then at the end of the chapter, just talking about how to apply this law to life, making sure that you give yourself a character audit, look at the character traits that you want within your business and within the people who are following you, and then do an audit of yourself to make sure that all of those characters and those values that you are showing them every day. And then he also talked about having someone else compare or look at you for a week in the workplace and see if what you're doing and how you conduct yourself in the business matches up to the vision and the things that you're telling your staff. And then also making a list of what you wish people did better and then evaluate yourself against that list. Are you doing it to the standard that you want those who are following you to do?
All right, so let's talk about that one for a minute and let's go back in time about, oh, I got to remember this, somewhere between 40 and 45 years. There was a movement in organizations and it even filtered down to schools. And I'm trying to remember, maybe about 1984 when we did it in schools, where we did a time on task audit. We started doing time on task audits. Now they're still hanging around a little bit, but we got nationwide, we got into that in a big way in the early mid 80s. Um, and one of the things became very clear during that time. I've heard this for a long time. We judge ourselves by our intentions. Others judge us by our actions. And what we found as school people, and especially as school administrators, is that we weren't practicing what we preached. That we wanted others to do X, Y, and Z while we intended to, but we just never got around to it. And that was just prior, that was after right around the time of the basic ed plan. And we were starting teacher evaluations for the first time, formal observations and evaluations for the first time. And what we found is while people said they prized good instruction and wanted to see good lessons, what did administrators do? They didn't bother to go. Well, I meant to. I got busy. They didn't have time, and so we had a hard time for a while there until the state formalized the evaluation system that forced administrators to go and do their observations and their formal evaluations. But it came down to, and these were good people, they weren't lazy people. But again, that self-enforcement is really hard. And that's why we were auditing, and that's why districts have rules on the number of walkthroughs, and because unfortunately, if left to their own devices, most folks think as long as I had good intentions, that's enough. That is not enough in leadership. Your actions must back up your words, um, and you've got to find a way as emerging administrators to make sure that the two align. If not, then, I think of all the different terms that I'm not up with all the popular lingo, but being fake or not being authentic or not being real or whatever is you say one thing and do another. That may be the most limiting factor for emerging for early on administrators is that you've got to live it. You can't just talk about it. You have to live it. And so remember, always remember, others will judge you by your actions, not your intentions. Doesn't matter what your intentions were. If you didn't show up, then you didn't show up. And so that's a good lesson for us all. Thank you, Monique. All right, moving on.
All right. So then chapter 14 was the law of buy-in. People buy into the leader and then the vision. Um, so with this chapter, it talks about how typically a leader, so again, if we go back a couple of chapters and then the previous chapters, again, it talks about how the leader, our job, the further up in the ladder we go, is to be visionaries, to figure out what the vision is and how to accomplish a goal. So we typically come to what the vision or the dream is first, and then we align the people to that vision. However, the people that follow us or the people that work with us, they are going to buy in or find the leader first before they can find the vision and the dream. Um, so it talks about how every message that is delivered is filtered through some person, through a messenger. And so you have to give your followers or the people within your building a reason to buy into you without buying into the vision itself. So you can have, so there was a chart, I didn't put it in here, but there was a chart that talked about you can have a really good vision. So the staff can buy into your vision, but if they don't buy into you first, they're still going to want to find a new leader that delivers that vision. But if they buy into you and the vision is bad, they're going to keep you as the leader and then try to work into a new vision. So they're always going to buy into the leader first. Um, so again, followers don't like the leader. So I did put the chart in here. I thought I didn't, but followers don't like the leader, but they don't like the vision. They're going to just find a new leader. But if they don't like the leader, but they like the vision, then they'll just find a new leader. And then followers like the leader, but not the vision, then it's time to find a new vision. But it's when the follower finds a good leader that has a good leader that they will get behind both. So this chapter really focuses on making sure that you become or you are a person that people can buy into first. And Maxwell had an example of when he became a youth pastor at a church and they had already set aside monies to purchase I forget what type of building, but he didn't feel like that was the right vision or the right direction for the church. He thought that they needed to purchase and put money into building a new auditorium. So it talks about how as a leader, when you come into a new situation, you may have to buy time or stall them on the vision to get them to buy into you first, and then you can talk about the vision. He talks about how going into a new situation, you never want to automatically try to change the vision until they buy into you as a person first. Um, so he states that you can only take people where they need to go if they buy into you first. So he went into that example that I just talked about. Um, but once they have bought into you, then you can push the vision that they need to go in, and they'll be more willing to buy into your vision once they buy into you. And so to apply that law to our everyday lives, um, he states that first you have to start with your vision statement. Really think about what the vision of the school in this case is and where you need to go. And then determine if that vision is worth the time and effort. Really take stock into what the outcomes are going to be, and are the outcomes high enough for you to really throw everything behind it. Then he talks about rating your team's buy-in of you. And he even says that you can go out and ask people, different things. And I think about those teacher working condition surveys. Our district does their own teacher working condition surveys, even outside of the years. So, really evaluating how much the team buys into you as a leader through those types of surveys and things. And then think of ways that you can earn credibility if your buy in is low. And he talked about what we talked about last week, making sure that we are thinking about how the team feels about you versus trying to buy them or trying to give them things to make them buy into you as a leader. And then the last one was develop a strategy with each person who has a low buy in. So, really evaluate your team and think about the ones that have low buy in with you and develop a strategy that you can individually reach that person, because you want to try to find as many people, especially those who are the many leaders in the building. So, thinking about the lead teachers or the department heads. Those are the ones that you really want to buy into you, because if they don't, then those that are under them are going to buy into them, and they could take them away from what your vision is. And that was it for 14.
All right. Let's talk about vision and mission. Somebody explained to me the difference between vision and mission.
So I, I always took it as the vision is where you see yourself being in, 3 years, 5 years, depending on the leader, how long the leader's in the building, or the projected tenure that they're going to be there. And the mission is how we get there. And it can address really all stakeholders, but oftentimes you get to seeing long visions and mission statements, and nobody is really living out the full length of it. So that's my interpretation of it.
Yeah. So, thinking from an organizational perspective, Donovan's exactly right. The vision is where you want to go. Mission is how we get there, what we do to get there. They're completely different things. Where we want to go, how we're going to do it, what we're going to do, and how we're going to do it. All right. Now, which of those is dependent upon the client system? Not the people in the organization, but the client system that you're trying to serve. Think about let me make sure I'm clear here. All right. The vision is where we want to go. The mission is what we're going to do to get there, what we're going to do to get there. Which of those requires participation or acquiescence or agreement from the client system who we're trying to serve organizationally?
I would think that would be the mission.
That's exactly right. Your vision is your own, but your client system has to agree with that vision in terms of the mission, has to agree with that mission, how you go about doing it. Now, what happens in an organization if you have the vision, the people in the organization buy in, everybody's behind you, yeah, 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 let's go, everything is good, but the client system doesn't like the mission, doesn't like how you're going about doing, how you're trying to achieve your vision. What happens then? Do
I
you
mean,
lose market share? Do you lose clients?
If they don't, I think if they don't align to your how of getting there, which is the mission, you are at risk for losing your
There you
clients, your
go.
market share.
There you go. There you go. All right, now, why I brought this up. I've seen a lot of great visionary leaders in the school business that had a vision of where they wanted to take the school. And they had the people in the organization behind them. But the client system, the students and the parents didn't like how they were going about it. And so what did they do? They opted out. If you were superintendent and you had a school where they were losing students daily and they were losing faculty, well, we won't talk about this. They were losing students daily. Would you be concerned?
yes.
Absolutely. But my point here that I'm trying to make is you got to be minding the store. You can't be one of those pie in the sky, head in the clouds, great visionary leaders that are not minding the store, that's making sure that the customer is getting what they want through the mission that we're delivering to them. That's the mission, is how we going about delivering our product. That's the mission, that they're getting what they paid for, what they came for, what they want. Um, and it doesn't matter that they're attaboying you from the choir and the pulpit. They're amening you from both of them. The organization itself. But when the client system starts to leave you, you you've got a problem. And so while your vision may be your own, the vision may be your own. The mission requires the participation of the client system. So you must be aware of both, and you must understand that just because you've got the people inside the organization behind you and your vision, if the client system doesn't like the delivery system, the mission, they will leave you. They will go elsewhere. I don't know that crazy rant for the last 5 minutes would have been applicable 40 years ago, but it is now, because as we started out talking tonight, there are other options now other than public school, and folks opt out. If you don't give them, if you're not meeting their needs through the mission that you're on, if you're not meeting their needs, they will leave you. You can't just be a great visionary leader anymore. If you're not serving the clients, or if they think that you're not serving them, they will leave you. They have options. Most companies do. It was said when I came along some 50 years ago in the university that the two organizations that were most alike were schools and prisons. You didn't choose them, they didn't choose you, and they couldn't go anywhere else. But guess what? We're not like prisons anymore. People have options now. You have to be not just what you're trying to do, but how you're doing it. You have to be equally aware of each of those now. And so the role of the visionary leader can't just be, I'm just the ideas guy. The execution is just as important as the idea now in public schools. It wasn't always that way. When I started out, there was no such thing as school choice. Wherever you live, that's where you went to school. That is no longer the case. There were no charter schools. There were no private. Well, there weren't. Mostly, there weren't very many private schools. They weren't an option for 95% of the students in the state of North and South Carolina. They weren't an option. Now there are options. You must be aware that while you might need to be a visionary, you still got to make sure that you're minding the store. How you're delivering that mission is just as important as that vision of where you want to go. That's the new reality of public schools is not cost of acquisition as well. There is a cost of acquisition, but market share. Market share is now a thing in schools, and it goes directly back to your vision and your mission. How you're delivering that vision, people, it matters to people now, and it matters greatly to market share. And without market share, we will not continue to be in the business. All right, moving on.
Okay, the last chapter, 15, was the law of victory. And it was the shorter chapter. And it just basically says that leaders will find a way to win at all costs. So in that chapter, he defines a great leader as someone who shares an unwillingness to accept defeat, that they will rise to every challenge and do everything in their power to win, embrace the vision, and approach the challenges with resolve. And but at the end of everything, they will find a way to win no matter what. So there's a lot of comparisons of football coaches and being able to look at the sidelines and see which one serves as a great leader, by seeing who is determined to win at all costs. So there are three components that are defined that will help lead to a victory. So the first one being the unity of vision. So having everyone understand again the vision, being behind the vision, and uniting behind that vision, everyone on the team. And then also he talks about how the team has to have a diversity of skills. So you can't have a team where everyone is on the same level. You have to have a variety of skills and able to achieve the victory. And then a leader dedicated to the victory is going to make sure that they're raising the players to their full potential. So having that diverse skill is important, but are we allowing those players on our team to reach the full potential um, of their skills that they bring to the team? And then making sure that at the end of the day, you're bringing together the talent that you have and the vision together. And so that kind of goes back to the chapter before, where he's talking about as leaders, first we find the vision and then we find the people. So finding the people, aligning the talents that are needed to achieve the goal or the vision, and making sure that they're reaching their full potential. And so from that, I just got that there is no plan B. One of the quotes says, no matter what, as the leader, if you are an exemplar leader, that no matter what, you'll keep fighting to achieve victory. And the way that we can apply that within our profession is making sure that first we are taking responsibility for the success of the team that we lead, and that the success of our team has to become personal. And so on the other side of that, when we are not winning, that we take it personal and we're adjusting, and again looking at ourselves and figuring out what we can do to change ourselves to help our team see where we need to go. Looking at the vision piece by piece, identifying what skills are needed to achieve that vision, and then aligning specific members to the skills that are needed. And also, not only aligning the members, because sometimes we can just get new members, which is what they suggest, is adding team members that will fulfill the skills, but sometimes it also means just training up someone to fill the gap. So we may not have all of the teachers or all of the people in place to achieve our vision, but sometimes we just need to figure out what the skill is that's missing, find someone that we can train up to fill that gap. And then also take an inventory of your team by asking them what they believe their personal goals are, but also what is the goals of the team and what is the vision. And if there is diversity amongst their answers, making sure that you first work on bringing the team together, make sure that you fully communicated the vision, and make sure everyone's on the same page. And that was it.
All right. What's the downside of win at all cost?
So I
Some
will,
people,
oh, go
some
ahead.
people are willing to give up their moral compass in order to do so.
You know, when you go to the ball game, why do they have to have referees at ball games? There, you know what the actual the idea of having an official at a ball game is so one side doesn't take advantage of the other. That there's a sense of fundamental fairness. The problem that we get into in most organizations, there are no referees. Um, and when we develop that win at all cost attitude, I mean, how many times do we have to see, cheating in schools? I've outlined a couple. I mean, that's the problem with that mentality. I've always argued that this notion that the leader never quits and win at all costs, that's not a good thing. It might have been 50 years ago, but it's not anymore. Now, most everybody now has adopted the NASCAR philosophy. If you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. Um, and we'll do anything or we'll sacrifice anything or anybody to win. Um, so it came to me in an epiphany. Seriously, an epiphany. It came to me in an epiphany. And I want to say it was about uh, maybe 1985. It came to me in an epiphany. This notion of win at all costs might not be a good thing, and that adults that we trusted and revered and respected might not be the best people to be making some of these kinds of decisions, these win at all costs. So I was a high school teacher and coach. Um, and we had I knew a family in the community, and their last name was Carpenter. And y'all aren't old enough to remember there was an old cartoon back in the day, and it was a cat and a mouse, and their name was Tom and Jerry. Um, well, they named their sons Tom and Jerry. Um, no accounting for taste. And Tom was the youngest, and he was a fullback slash running back, fullback. He wasn't big enough to be a fullback, but they ran him at the fullback position. And I knew that family and loved those kids like they were my own. And that kid would have to go every Friday and take him to Shelby, about, how far is Shelby? 45 minutes, hour and a half, 2 hour round trip to get uh, pain killing shot in each shoulder so he could play on Friday night. Let me say that again. We had to take him every week to Shelby on Friday and get pain killing shots in both shoulders so he could play on Friday night because we wanted to win. Um, I wasn't the head coach of the varsity. I was ninth grade coach. So I was still just young. But it finally dawned on me, this is not ethical. This is not moral. This is not what Christians should be doing. This kid's not, I mean, that we're having to shoot this kid up in high school to play and we're not doing it because we don't have anybody else, but because we think we have a better chance of winning if he's in the game than not. We're taking this kid and we're having this kid shot up in both shoulders so he can play on Friday night. That's what win at all costs will do. You'll harm kids. I mean, it would take us a month going through Google to read all the stories of cheating in schools because people win at all costs. It'd take a month to read all the Google stories that are out there from the ones, the orchestrated ones down in Houston all those years where it was just the cheating was institutionalized on the Texas competency test. They gave 10th graders. Um, you know, Rod Page was the Secretary of Education at the time and had to resign because he was superintendent in Houston when that had all happened. I mean, it was just institutionalized down there to the ones in Georgia, the ones in Atlanta, the big one in Charlotte. I mean, all these places. I've told you about the high school where they came in and copied the test and handed it out as a study guide. I mean, that's what win at all costs means. That there are no rules other than just win, baby. That's what uh, Al Davis, the late Oakland Raiders owner, that's what he would say when they would ask him about. He would get these guys and literally get them out of prison to play football. That they were just outlaws, convicts, criminals, um, bad public behavior. But we just want to win. We don't care about how we do it. It's just do we win or not. And I watched a 16-year-old boy that didn't know any better and, kind of rural country parents that didn't know any better, listened to the coaches who took him, put him in a van, and drove him to the doctor in Shelby, 2-hour round trip to get shots in both shoulders so he could play football on Friday night. When we had plenty of kids standing on the sideline that could have played. So I think about these college coaches now in NIL. What we're finding is some of these guys weren't near as good a player coaches as we thought they were. They just had better players when they were the only people around buying players. And now that anybody can buy their players, we're finding out, well, they ain't nearly as good as I thought they were. They were never that good. They were just willing to do what it took. I think of one school in particular that I know won a couple. Did they win one or two national championships? This Orange Bunch from down the road here. Um, but they were funneling money buying players through a church there in town. Everybody knew it, but great coach. But now he's on the hot seat because when everybody can buy players, he's not nearly as good a coach as he was. I mean, people are talking about what's his buyout now, but can we get rid of him? Well, he's the same fella he was 4 or 5 years ago before the rules changed. It's just he was willing to do what it took to win back then. And now everybody is willing to do what it takes. Everybody, because now it's legal to buy all the players that you want. They're no longer in the conversation as a great team. He's still the same guy picking players. He's still the same guy on the sideline, but the outcome's not the same. He was willing to cheat when others weren't. Now that it's not cheating, he's not getting the results. Um, there's a morality tale in there somewhere. I'm just not sure I'm smart enough to figure it out. But the idea here is there is no plan B, win at all cost, do whatever it takes, never quit, all that. Folks, that can take you way too far. You lose perspective. And when you do that, you start harming kids. I told you about the high school. I asked my cousin, the superintendent, why didn't y'all stop him? Well, it would harm all these kids, but he was already harming all these kids by cheating. We had, we couldn't turn it in. Yeah, you could have. You most certainly could have taken your lumps and done the right thing. But you established that, that cheating was okay, that the outcome was all that mattered. And there's no line that we won't cross anymore in our society. There might have been at one time, but there is not now. And understand that if you adopt that mentality, um, you can be successful. And there's nobody watching you, but you know, you're leading yourself down a path of destruction. Unfortunately, you're setting unrealistic expectations. At some point, you've got to know when enough is enough. I've done what I can. Um, but a lot of folks don't see it that way. Again, all this ambition, all this All this energy without ethics um, leads to disaster. I'll just tell you, it really does. All right, Monique, that was a great job tonight. Thank you for that. I wanted to talk about dissertations for a minute tonight. We still got a few minutes left. How's everybody doing in your starting your dissertation journey? Everybody's good? Now, you'll remember Dr. Bull came in one time and talked about making sure that you're doing a leadership topic and not a curriculum topic that has district-wide implications. Make sure that you keep your eye on that. Um, and make sure that you realize that the metrics on mixed methods make it almost impossible to do survey work now. You're going to need about 200 in your sample and about at least 75 return surveys. That's a lot. So be thinking, be paying attention to qualitative work would be my suggestion to you.
I
Uh,
have a question, Dr. Bull. No, see, talking about Dr. Bull.
mhm.
Okay, so as we are doing these annotated bibliographies, right? Some of the articles, and I don't know, I took off the extra thing. Some of the articles, because I guess certificate expiration, I don't know. I've hit a couple of stumbling blocks while we do that little part of that activity. Is there any other way to get around that, especially if the topic is in line with what you're trying to research? So,
Well, my understanding is you can't access the article. That's the problem.
mm-hmm. And
You
it's for some of them, they say the certificate expired and it'll have a date. And then for some of them, they're not accessed online.
well,
They're,
that's when you get in touch with, and I'm remiss in that. Um, y'all drove the short straw getting me and not Dr. Patterson. Dr. Patterson had the librarian come in and talk to her class one night. Natalie Bishop, she's the librarian, about how she can help you with some of those things.
mm-hmm.
And so I don't know that we need to have her, but you need to Natalie Bishop, she's the dean of the
Okay.
library. She's one of our EDCI, fairly recent EDCI graduates. She can help you with any of that stuff. Now, I didn't say she would get it for you. I said she
Right.
could help you.
Right.
If
Right.
she can't get it, then we don't have it or we can't
Right.
access it.
Right.
Um, so, Dr. Bishop, Dr. Natalie Bishop at the library, if you're having certificate problems, and again, there's different types of those. Some of the articles just aren't available. Some of
Mm-hmm.
them that she has to get, and I think they have to pay for them.
Okay.
And so I don't know exactly. Um, so if you have a list of those, you can get in touch with her, and supposedly she will help you to access what you need.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Now, I'm glad you brought that up. Annotated bibliographies. Please, again, and I'm going to get on this rant again. That's probably the second or third or fourth time y'all have heard it from me. Please don't think that just stringing those 45 annotated bibliographies together is a literature review. Um, you've got to have some direction. You've got to have, a good literature review has 7 sections. 5 of them are content, one of them is your conceptual or theoretical framework, and one of them is gaps in literature. Um, and again, I've shown you this before. Um, let me share my screen. Did he send me that today? Yeah. Hmm. I'll get back to her. While I'm thinking of it, I need to download this. All right. Okay. I can close that one. Let me pull this one up. I think I've done this before with you, but I'm going to do it again. All right. This is the title of his study. Simply looking at this title, tell me what the 5 content areas of his literature review should be. Identify his problem and identify his lens.
Teacher perception.
Okay, that should be one of the areas that he does his literature review in. That should be one of the sections is teacher perceptions. All right.
The problem would be
Dropouts.
dropouts.
Dropouts is the problem, so that should be a section.
And student engagement.
Engagement is his lens. He's looking at
Oh, yeah.
dropouts, which is the problem, through the lens of student engagement. So that's his lens. So that should be that. So that's 3. So we've got teacher perceptions, we've got dropouts, and we've got intervention strategies. So that's 3. What are the other 2?
Rural schools.
Rural schools is 4.
Teacher perceptions. Did we
We've
say
already
that?
done perceptions.
Um,
What's the last one? Student
Intervention
engagement.
strategies.
intervention strategies.
Intervention strategies. There you go. Intervention strategies. So it's teacher perceptions 1, intervention strategies. That's our lens. That's 2. Dropouts is our problem 3. Student engagement is 4, and rural schools is 5. Right there it is. That's the 5 sections right there that I should see in his literature review. And the problem is dropouts. And our lens that we're studying the dropout problem through is intervention strategies. Are they working or not? What are teacher perceptions of intervention strategies to reduce dropouts, improve student engagement in rural schools? There you go. So if I look at his literature review, we start with the problem. That's why it's important to know what your problem is. We start with the problem in the literature review. And we start broad and then do what you see me do my hands this way a dozen times. We funnel it down. So we start with dropout and graduation rates at the national level. That's how we start. Okay. Bold, left margin, no italics. That's a section. So here's the first subsection: national trends in dropout and graduation. What do you think I should see after that?
Would you go to state?
Look at Monique. She's trying to be the star of the week here. And then we should go from where from that?
Rural.
Rural. See how that went? Again, left margin, bold, italicized. That's all subsections under the sections about dropouts and graduation. All right. What's bad about dropping out? Why are dropouts bad? Dropout impacts and risk. Barriers in rural communities. Socioeconomic and legal impacts of dropping out. Mental health and substance abuse. These are all issues for dropouts. All right, now, new section, left margin, bold, no italics. You said, Dale, we want to talk about interventions next because that's our lens. We're not done with our problem. What are all what two things are on your report card in high schools that are first and foremost? Graduation rate and the number of college and career ready. If you drop out, can you achieve either?
No.
No, you cannot. So we must explore that. Again, this is a further problem that we have. Dropping out in itself is a problem for the student, but it also means for schools that you can't get kids college and career ready. So the problem is twofold. It's not just the bad things that happen to kids if they drop out, it's the bad things that happen to school if they don't get kids college and career ready. So we talk about college and career ready, assessment systems and barriers, culturally responsive. Now we can start talking about interventions. Now we're going to talk about interventions. We've explored dropouts all the way through state, national, state, local, and we've talked about the bad part for both students and for schools of dropping out. You can't be college and career ready. Now we're going to introduce our interventions, profile of a graduate. This is what we're trying to do. Obligation of the law to create these, bridges to employment and outlier schools, intervention strategies and secondary education. All right, now this is the lens that we're going to look at it through. Tiered intervention models, academic credit recovery interventions. There's no more than one. We got to explore all the different ones. Attendance recovery and extended learning time intervention models. Implementation fidelity, challenges in implementation. Anytime you're putting a program in, you got to talk about that. Role of student engagement. Again, there's our next section, definition of importance. You see how this is going? Influence in student engagement in rural. Now we've added rural schools. Family and community engagement in dropout prevention. Engagement as a predictor of academic persistence and graduation. Aha. That's why we do intervention to try to get kids engaged because engaged kids don't drop out according to the literature. See how they start running together now, measuring student engagement. Can't talk about intervention without engagement. Now, here comes teacher perceptions. Teacher perception of intervention program effectiveness. Importance of teacher buy-in, program fidelity. Perception of program relevance and usability. Observe student engagement and academic progress, role of professional development, administrative support in implementing these programs, gaps between teacher expectations and program outcomes, challenges and barriers to intervention success, structural barriers in rural schools. You know, doing after school and Saturday school is hard out in rural areas where you don't have city bus transportation. Kids that aren't old enough to drive or don't have cars aren't wealthy enough. Structural inadequate professional development for teachers. Lack of student motivation and engagement. What's bad about that? Misalignment between intervention content and student needs. Data monitoring and accountability gaps. Conceptual framework. All right. So we covered our 5 content areas, and now comes our conceptual framework. And there's all of our theorists on that. And then here's our literature. Identified gaps in the literature. Thematic analysis, I run that for you. Here are the themes from your literature review, and then behind that will be your summary. This is not rocket science. But you can't just take 45 random annotated bibliographies and make a literature review. First, identify your problem, and then your lens, and then your environment around where are you doing this? You know, who are we going to who are we going to gather data from? All of those factor in. You know, what's the bad thing about your problem, not only for the student but for the school? I mean, you got to keep drilling down, and there's got to be a rhyme and a reason to your literature review. It's got to tell a complete story. It just keeps on drilling down, keeps on drilling down. It's just not 45 related things with no pattern or no formula to it or no format. That literature review starts with the problem, then goes to the lens, and then brings in all the other factors of your study. Always start with your problem.
Dr. Lamb, can I ask a question? So, I've submitted three different topics to Dr. Putnam. Um, when, at what point within the program do we go through solidified what our actual dissertation topic will be? Are we just kind of still testing the water, trying things out,
I mean,
narrowing focus?
I would say they'll probably have you do that in the 024. Supposedly at the beginning of your second year in 736, you're supposed to have your topic solidified and start working on it by then. But you need to have it pretty much solidified now. Otherwise, all these annotated I get students
Yeah.
all the time, and I'm like, what's this stuff? And they say, well, I did that before I picked my topic, but I don't want to throw it away. There's, well, but it's of no value to us. I mean, you did an annotated bibliography on this topic over here, but your dissertation topic is this over here. Well, can't I use those? No. The quicker you can pick your topic, the better off you are. The quicker you can pick your topic, the better off you are in terms of getting some direction for your literature review. I mean, they're just, you know, students think that they're doing the 45 annotated, to actually build their literature review. They're just having you do that to learn how to do them and become learned so that you know something. They may or may not translate into your chapter two. But if you're smart, you pick a topic quickly and know what you're doing, then you can kill two birds with one stone. I have to be the bearer of bad news that, what you've got doesn't match what we're doing, and you got to start again. And then it gets into why is everybody else in my group getting to propose and I'm not? I'm not even to chapter three yet. Well, that's because you can't get through chapter two. That's why. So understanding that it's going to fall on deaf ears if you complain. I did all these and now they're no good. No, no, no. They're gonna argue back. Well, we just had you do that to learn something. We didn't promise you that it was going to be used in your dissertation. Uh, what I am suggesting is figure out what you're going to do so that you can use those in your dissertation, and they can be a basis of what we're working on and using. Carter's out in the lead. You just saw, I just downloaded his interview transcripts. I mean, he's already, you know, he finished this summer. He's already proposed, got through IRB and done data collection. It's just the middle of October. But he had an idea. I mean, he proposed the first, the first day that you were allowed to propose, his went in this fall because he didn't piddle around. Now, full disclosure, he's worked with me since the very beginning. He came to Gardner Webb specifically to work with me. And so I have been with him since day one. But we had his topic before the first semester was out. We had his topic, and when he did his lit review, we knew exactly what it was going to be. We knew exactly what it was going to be. But if you don't know, there's nothing wrong with not knowing. Then the annotated bibliographies should be broad and you should be, find out what vibrates sympathetically with you. But don't think then, well, okay, I found it. you were doing the annotated bibliography for a different reason. You were doing it to gather knowledge and figure out what you wanted to do. It serves you well for that purpose, but it's not going to serve you in your literature review. And again, the argument is in the EDDS courses is that they want you to become knowledgeable. They're not telling you that this is going to be your literature review. The value is in what you've read and learning how to do them and what you've read. You know, they may or may not become part of your literature review. They're not telling you that they are. But the faster you can get your topic, the more focus you can get, then the more those 45 are going to be in alignment with what you're going to be doing later on, and the more of that stuff you can pull and use. Yep. Yeah. That's how it goes. Um, and again, don't pick a topic that lends itself to survey if you don't have a large group to survey and you can't project that you can get at least 75 surveys back. You're better off to do qualitative and small group and do interviews. All right. Other questions? All righty. Okay, we're on one more week. We're on again next week. And then what we have the week off after that, and then we have class. Is that how it goes? All right. So I will see you again next week. Who's on deck for next week? Sonny is on deck for next week. All right. Sounds good. I will see y'all next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Everybody have a good week. Thank you for being with us tonight. Night. Thank you.